For all the rhetoric that we've just heard, I think the emphasis is still to put the burden of the financing of both reconciliation and infrastructure on the corporate sector. Yes, we're spreading it around a little bit differently, but ultimately it falls in the corporate sector. And the principle was to try to avoid taxing the average guy and to the average worker. But we all know from every study that's ever been done is that the corporate taxes always fall on the working guy. And 75 to 80% of those corporate taxes go there. So in my sense of the assessment of what's going on is we're endangering the Fed's ability to fight inflation because the offset to the higher wages that we see, the high inflation that we see today, are the productivity gaining investments that are being made in the corporate sector. If we endanger that, we won't get the offset. The Fed's going to have to do much more in aggressive tightening.
So in Bill Lee's view of the world, we have sticky price pressures, corporations paying higher tax, meaning the economy is less productive. So these price pressures are persistent enough that the Fed has to come in and kind of throw the brakes on for everybody and slow the economy in a way that they otherwise might not have to in a strong productivity world. Let's go back to one of the points you were making, which is that the Biden administration doesn't want to increase taxes on people making below $400,000. So it's turning to the corporate sector, and people are pointing out kind of the point that you're making, which is that implicitly this acts as a tax or a brake on the economy, in part, like you mentioned, because corporations still employ people and maybe they can employ fewer of them. But there are going to be plenty out there, Bill, who say that this is exactly where the U.S. should be turning because the corporate tax rate was substantially higher just a few years ago with no discernible negative effect. What would your reply to that be?
I would say that the benefit of having this lower corporate tax rate and the improvement in productivity enhanced investment is that the Fed has really had no inflation problem to fight at all. In fact, they had a disinflationary problem. We had so much in the way of productivity gains and so much in the way of downward price pressure. They're trying to achieve their 2% target. Yes, I agree that we could redistribute the burden of taxes better. But I think the easier way to do that is to administratively collect more revenues by closing the loopholes. Now, that's, of course, easier said than done. Everyone says we should close loopholes, but it seems that that is the front that no one seems to address, and instead it's going through higher tax rates. And I think that's a misguided policy. I think the other thing to keep in mind is the bigger the spending packages, the bigger the demand that's put out in the economy, the more the Fed will have to fight later on, because the private sector is really where we want the growth to come from, not the infrastructure type spending, which really is quite minimal, but really that reconciliation package of putting entitlements out there, that's the danger we have to keep an eye on.
How big are the loopholes that you referenced? How much revenue could they possibly raise? And how would you tie this all back to the labor market?
I think the one thing that we need to keep in mind is that you and I pay our taxes because it's collected directly from our salaries. Where the loopholes are would be all the write-offs that companies have as well as individuals have, especially the higher income individuals, in being able to reduce the incidence of their taxes. So those are the myriad of things that have gone into the tax code over the decades, and that's a quagmire that's very hard to untangle. But if there's any headway to be made, that's where it's going to be made. And by raising rates even more, it just incentivizes more of these loopholes to be put in place.
Ironically, I believe the Democratic bill would still support repealing the SALT cap, meaning, in other words, giving more tax breaks to high net worth earners. But we'll continue to look through this. Bill, thanks for your time this morning, especially pivoting to this issue and being able to explain it so well. We do appreciate it. We'll check back in with you soon.